All right. So this video is going to take you through one of the, if not the most powerful technique available in Photoshop for getting very, very detailed selections. And it's through the use of channels. If you have watched the other resource on the blend if, we've already taken a little bit of a look at the channels, but we're going to take a closer look now. So whenever you have something that, has a lot of details in it, like this cat, a lot of this fur, and if I were to go up to select and to select subject, look, there's a ton of the fur that's just not getting selected. And even if I were to do select and mask and do the refine edge tool, there's going to be a lot of the hair that it's just not going to be able to detect. So we need to use a different technique in order to get this cat, um, or any other such thing that we're wanting to get selected. So we want to go to our channels. We're going to go up to Window, Channels. So if you recall, right, here is the red channel. This picture, RGB, red, green, and blue, is only made up of red, greens, and blues. And I know what you mean. You look at this and you say, well, what about the tans and the oranges? I'm seeing tan and orange. Well, not actually. You're seeing a combination of red light, green light, and blue light. And we can prove this if we go up to our preferences and our interface and we make the channels in their respective colors. So here's all of the blue light. Here's where all of the green light is in this picture. Here's all of where the red light is, or red pixels, green pixels, blue pixels. And when I combine them, so here's all the red, combine them with all of the green, and then I combine them with all of the blue, and there's our picture. Essentially, your brain is being tricked. It goes along with color theory and how we actually perceive colors, which I won't get into here. But for the sake of this, just know that everything you see on a screen is only red, blue, and green light. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back because it is actually important that we see these channels as they are meant to be seen, which is in black and white. And that's because this is here for us to help us make masks. And as you know, a mask is in black and white and tones of gray. If it's black in a mask, give a slight pause for you to think. If it's black in a mask, that means that area of your layer, or in this case, the color, is completely transparent, not visible. So here, right here, we're on the blue channel, right here in the eye, it's completely black. That means there's no blue pixels there. Wherever it's white, that's where those blue pixels are showing far more. Where it gets darker in tones, there are less blue pixels there. Same thing with each one of these. Green, wherever it's brighter, that is closer to white in this picture, is where there are green pixels, and wherever it is darker, that is where there are no green pixels. And the same thing with red. Now what we want to do to help us create a selection is find the greatest amount of contrast between what we want selected, the cat, and the background, because that's going to help us do our work, because essentially what we want to do is make this cat completely black and the background completely white. So that then we can grab a selection of him. So let's see, red, green, and blue. As you can tell, blue, the cat is fairly dark and the background is fairly light. So blue most often is going to be the channel you want to use. Not always, but I would say about 80-90% of the time it's going to be the blue channel. So we can't work directly on this blue channel because anything we do to these channels is going to directly alter over here the actual picture. So what we want to do is create a duplicate of the channel we want to work on. And same way, we're just going to drag this layer to the plus icon. Now on this duplicate copy, we can do whatever it is we want to it. And first thing we want to do is start to increase the blacks in the cat and increase the white in the background. Now we don't want to work over here, all right? We can't do any kind of adjustment layer. such as the levels and curves, right? Because that's going to go on this layer, and we want to work on over here on the channel we made a copy of. So we can't do adjustment layers because there are none down here, but we can work destructively. We can go up to image adjustments and levels. And this is fine because we're not keeping this, we're just creating a mask. So up here, not down here at the output levels, we're not going to mess with that, but in here, we're going to take the blacks and move them. You'll see the cat getting darker and darker. Now what we're doing is we're looking at the details here. I don't want to move because we want to keep as much of the hair on in our selection. So I don't want to go too much, right, where it starts losing that detail. But I want to get the cat as dark as I can. And then I want to bring the white of the background in. And I have to find that sweet spot, so to speak. Because if I pull in too much of this white, you'll see that it begins to burn the edges of this hair, which is what I don't want to do. Right now that's ruining our selection. So I need to pull back until I get a good amount of that white in the background, but I'm not losing detail in the hair. And you can move this midtones just probably a little bit as well. All right, so that's pretty good. All right, so we're getting our cat darker and our background lighter. Stage 2 is to go to our dodge and our burn tools. The dodge makes white and tones that are closer to white brighter, and it's not going to touch black. So we need to be careful with this. I would leave the exposure at about 50%. And the difficult area is around here where the hair is. So that's where I'm going to start painting with a soft brush, just lightly bringing more white into here. It's going to affect the background. It's going to burn the white of the background. It will also start to dodge, not burn, but dodge or increase the brightness of these hairs, which is what I don't want to do. But before it starts to do that to the hairs, it's going to affect the background more. So I have some time that I can dodge some of this background a little bit before I start to use the detail there in the hairs. So what I'm doing, I'm just trying to get around the cat these the background whiter. I'm trying to retain this hair while keeping the hair as dark as I can while getting that background brighter, because that's going to make getting a selection very easy. Now we may have to do something different down here. We might have to do this twice. So for this first one, I'm only going to work on getting a selection of the cat from here up. And then I'm going to have to do this again because it's a little bit more difficult to get a better selection of the cat from this area down. So you'll see what I mean here as we work through this. So I'm not going to worry right now about this area. Alright, so we'll do some of that. That's pretty good. Now I can go to my burn tool and do the same thing, right? It's not going to touch the white, but it's going to burn the hairs a little bit more. Get them a little bit darker. So do that in some areas on the outside of the cat to help with the selection process. All right. Now, so first stage, levels, second stage, dodging and burning some, and then the real magic of Photoshop. We're going to go to our brush, and we're going to set the blend mode of the brush to overlay. Now, what overlay does is it only is about contrast, right? It's going to increase heavily the contrast, which means if I have my white selected, it's not going to paint. I'm clicking right here in the black. It's not going to do anything to the black areas because it's about increasing the whites. So anything that is closer to white, kind of like it's operating kind of in the same respect as the dodge tool, but in a slightly better way. I can paint in here. I'm going to bring down my flow. And it's going to, just like the dodge tool, affect the background a little bit more than it will the hairs. So I can just paint going to affect more of the background before it does the hair. So I'm going to kind of paint around the cat, right? And it's not going to affect black at all. So I can paint right out here. Paint the background out, and it's not going to touch the black because it's overlay, and I'm painting with white and overlay. So it doesn't touch anything that's 100% black, but it takes and makes things brighter. It's not wanting to make anything darker. It just wants to make things brighter. So I'm painting, maybe decrease the flow a little bit so that it affects the background more and more quickly before it affects the darker tones of the hair. I need to keep as much detail of the hair as I can. There we go. Okay, I can zoom out. And real quickly paint around here. Now I can go to my lasso tool real here and just paint around here now. And I can just quickly fill this with white. And you can use a paint bucket tool. If it's set to the background color, Command Delete will just fill that with white. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. Just fill that, Command Delete, fill that with white. So we're going pretty good. Go back to my brush tool, set it to white. There's still some in here that I can paint out carefully. So as you can tell, right, it is affecting the hairs a little bit, but it's making the background white before the details of the hair is fully lost. So I'll be able to grab that hair in the selection. Okay. All right. So here we go. Now we need to get the cat fully black, right? So if I was to make the selection right now, all of this stuff I don't want selected. I just want a really good selection of the outside of the cat. So we're going to get our black now, overlay, and paint inside the cat. All right. So as I paint outside, it'll affect those hairs, but it's not going to affect the white. It's not going to move the white to black. I'm just going to do the outer edges here because just similar to the background, I can select everything and make the inside of the cat black really quick and easy. Get his ear. Paw up here. Get this all to black. Alright. Okay, and now get my lasso tool again, zoom out a little bit, and just make a selection all in here. Make sure black is the background, fill it with black. And this part, I'll go ahead and do this as well to make things a little bit easier. But I might have to do the bottom portion of this cat again. I can just set this to normal black and just paint real quick with a hard brush. There's a few more areas, so I'll go back to overlay, paint in here. Okay. All right. And let's see. You know what? Let's see if we can't maybe work on this bottom portion a little bit. So let's get a selection of this and see what would happen. Let's go here. Let's invert that area first. Nope. We'll go to image. adjustments, levels again. Let's try and make that whiter. Okay, it's happening some. Make sure I'm keeping some hair details in there, yeah. So let's see if this would work. Let's do some dodging. Bring the exposure down. There's just a lot of shadow going on here that we might have to redo this area of the cat. But we'll see how well we can do here in our first attempt. Make the outside edges brighter. Let's go ahead and switch to our brush. White, set to overlay, flow at 35%, maybe a little bit lower. I think I will want to do another pass on this cat. At the bottom hairs here. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of the rest of this. Select that, and Command Delete, fill it with white, and I'll select this area, and Command Delete, and a little bit, wrong one, I need the white, still a little bit here. Here as well. Okay. All right. So there we go. Now we can, I can either command click this or just click that. I'm going to hit command click. I can come back over here, create my mask. Of course, it's black as hide, and I want to invert this. So there's my cat. I can create a solid fill color layer, put him on the back of it. And you can see, right? Much better selection of the hair. All on the edges there. We've retained so much of the actual details of the hair, except for down here, a little bit has been burned, which is why I said, you know, you could always very easily go back here, delete the copy. Don't need this one either. Yes. Oop, nope. And I can create another duplicate. Alright, and this time I can go down here. Wait a second. I think, let's go ahead and apply this mask. There we go. Oh, I see. Okay, so we want to create a duplicate of it. Apply the mask to this one. Actually, we can just hide this one and delete this mask. And here we go. Alright. Now in this one I can work again. So this is the mask I have of the upper body that I got really good. And on this one I would just want to duplicate, make a duplicate. And now I'm going to work on getting this mask down here a little bit better. Same process, adjustments, and my levels, looking down there at the bottom this time. Making everything brighter down there and a little bit darker. Hitting OK, and a lot of the work already done, right? So here I'm just focusing from right here down. And I'm going to be making all of this black darker, dodging, and making the background lighter, especially here in these shadows. So dodging here around the edges, and then burning some of the darker edges here, going into with my brush again, setting it to overlay, using my white to get those white areas brighter and painting, trying not to affect the hairs so much. So I'll go through this rather quickly, but you guys understand you would take a little bit more time. Then getting my black, painting with my darks in here, the edges. There we go. And I only need to get the edges, right? Because I can just create a quick selection of all of this in here and just fill it with black. So I just need to push these to darker. It's probably one of the longer videos, but it is a much more involved process. Okay, so I get my lasso tool here real quick. Maybe make a selection right around in here. Fill that with black. Get my burn tool. Burn some more of this, as well as these edges. Get my brush tool. Set it to normal. Make sure it's a hard brush, not a soft brush. And now I can zoom in, make it a smaller brush. Paint with black over these areas here. Just carefully painting in. Not all the way to the edge. I still need to use my other techniques for that. But some of these that are just completely white, which means that the burn tool is not really going to do much or anything to it, and the brush set to overlay won't do anything to it either. So now I can go back, set this to overlay, got my black, set it to a soft brush. Let me lower my flow to 50 or so again, and paint some more in here. And switch it, paint on the outside where the white is. This cat's a good example. It actually has in a precarious position down here, which makes it a little bit more difficult to get a really good selection, but I think we're gonna do a good job here. Switch back to black. All right, I think this is pretty good. All right, so that's a pretty good selection there of our bottom cat. And so what I'll do, get my polygonal lasso tool, and hopefully I got a little bit more than I needed up top there. I could just fill this cat with white, right? I don't need this part of the cat. Okay, so now I will command, click that. I'm going to go ahead and invert it because we want the opposite. And all right, there we go. Go back here inside this mask, and I'm going to fill that with black. Oh, So, added a much more, did a much better job. Well, could probably work a little bit here in the mask still. Get my brush here, some white, set it to normal. Maybe carefully fill in some areas here. There we go, it's looking better. Increase the flow. So, still a pretty good job. Now let's say one other thing. All right, yeah, you can tell, right? Really good job. It took two goes at it, but the end result is very good. So let's say maybe the cat's fur, maybe there was like light on it. So in other words, let's say the original had some kind of weird light going on it. And let's just do this real quick. So let's see, like a red light was being cast on this cat here. Alright, like this. Some kind of just light. And you've cut it out. We'll go ahead and combine that. Merge these two. Merge layers. So this is what happened, right? We cut it out really good, but it has like this weird lighting on it. How do I fix that lighting? Well, I kind of already showed you a little bit. Just create a new layer, clip it into that cat, and on this layer, set it to a color, and get your eyedropper tool, hit I on your keyboard, and select a part of the color of the cat you want to replace that with, and just paint over. You know, as you get down here to a darker area, you might have to select a slightly different color, but just paint over it and get rid of that strange lighting going on. And we're back. All right, guys. So important to know how to do this. It's the strongest method available in Photoshop currently on how to make the most detailed of selections. So if you can get good at it, takes a little bit more time, a little bit more involved. But if you have a picture that's very detailed, has a lot of hair or other elements, this will be the way to go about getting a good selection of it.